Hello, welcome to the Empower Series. My name is Clifton Johnson. I'm the founder of the Empower Series Incorporated, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization brought to you by the generous donations of Comerica Bank, AE Media Group, and our viewers in the United States and around the world. Thank you. If you want to find out more about the Empower Series, definitely check us out on social media. We are on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, we're on it. You're on YouTube right now, so definitely like us, share us, make comments, and whatever you do, do not keep us a secret. The only way people are going to find out about the Empower Series is if you tell them. Our website is www.empowerseries.com. There you can find out how we give hope, inspiration, education, and connect you to resources to help you achieve your goal. In the top left-hand corner, you can always click the donate button. We want to appreciate you donating your time, volunteering, and your treasures. So if you make a donation, we greatly appreciate that. Our topic today is going to be on credit, actually a credit boot camp. We're going to increase your fitness when it comes to credit and answer questions like, what is credit? How can it benefit us? What are some credit building tips? What are the credit reporting bureaus? What is a credit report? What's your credit score? How do you improve it? How do you repair it? And we're also going to talk about identity theft and fraud. We have a guest today who's an expert in that area. Her name is Ralonda Jasper. Ralonda Jasper is a strategic business consultant with Equifax. With over 20 years of experience in sales and business consulting, she has worked in the area of credit management and education for companies such as Dun & Bradstreet, Citi, as well as Equifax. She's received an undergraduate degree in business from Howard University and a master's of business administration from St. Louis University. Amongst her many community efforts, she's a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta, the St. Louis alumni chapter. She is also active as a member of the Howard University Alumni Association, and she serves on the Board of Regents for Howard's School of Pharmacy, and she's also a proud founding board member of BOARD. And BOARD stands for Black Organization Leveraging Differences, Equifax Black Employee Network. Her favorite quote is, "To whom much is given, much is required." Ralonda, I want to welcome you to the Empower Series.
I'm happy to be here, Clifton Johnson.
Well, I know you're so busy, and I always say this, you are dedicating a portion of your life and pouring it into the Empower Series. So with that, I am forever grateful, and we really appreciate you spending your time and your life with us today to share your knowledge and help empower us.
Well, first of all, I'm so proud of the work that you're doing, that you found it such an important endeavor. And so educating the community, especially on this topic, is so important to our everyday lives. So thank you for allowing me to share this knowledge with the community.
Well, there is so much to cover, and we don't have that much time. So what I'm going to always tell people is that down at the very bottom of the video, in the description section, are links to additional resources. Your contact information, where to get information for on a national level as well as on a local level. So definitely go below and download the PDF and explore the links, get more information, because we're going to get at it and cover a lot of basic questions about credit, but then we're going to get into a little bit more detail about how do you read a credit report, how do you really dispute charges, how do you protect yourself against fraud and identity theft. But in the very beginning, we don't want to pull a muscle, so we're going to go just hit at it very first. Explain to us credit and what that is, Ralonda.
So credit is the simple act of borrowing money and paying it back at a later time. Typically, you're paying it back with interest. So that is what credit is.
Okay, and there are different types of credit though, right? Because you have credit card, you have installment loans. So what are the different types of credit that you can get?
Great question. You know, a lot of people don't realize that there are different types of credit. So one type of credit that I think most people know about is service credit, because they have a cell phone, right? So when you go and you purchase a cell phone and you get the service that allows you to use the phone, that is considered service credit, because essentially you're getting the use or getting the use of that phone before you pay for it. So you're paying for that service at a later time, typically 30 days at a time, 30 days post use, I should say. So that's service credit. Another example of service credit could be utilities. Typically, when you get your gas or electric turned on, you get a credit for that. So you pay that at a later time as well. So you typically pay a small deposit, if a deposit at all. And guess what? That deposit depends upon how good your credit is. So we'll get into that there because they'll look at credit scores with that. So service credit is one. An installment loan or installment credit is another. Installment credit is typically a car loan, a mortgage loan, where you basically borrow one uh, I'll say fixed amount, and then you pay a fixed amount on a monthly basis until you have paid off that loan. So typically that monthly amount that you're paying is the same every month over the period of time that you're paying off that loan. So that is an installment loan. And then the third type of credit is a revolving credit, which a lot of people know about that type of credit as well because they're getting credit cards. Credit cards is a great example of revolving credit. And revolving credit is borrowing money and paying it back, borrowing money and paying it back. So you might have a credit card that, let's say, has a limit of $1,000, but you may not pay up, use the total amount of that loan of $1,000. You may only use your credit card and make purchases of $250 in one 30-day period. So you're going to pay that $250 over time or in one fell swoop. That is considered revolving credit. You can also, with that revolving credit, you might end up going to your limit of $1,000 using that example. And your payments may change based upon the amount that you use up to that limit. So those are the three types of credit.
And here's the thing too, what we're going to talk about, because there's all these different types of credit, we're going to talk about why credit is important. And before we get too deep in this, I want to just make sure that people understand that we want to put a disclaimer out there. There's a lot of different organizations that will talk to you about improving your credit, repairing your credit, things of that nature. It is very important that you talk to a certified credit counselor. And the information that we're covering here, since I know I'm not a certified credit counselor, I know that you have certain certifications and we'll get into that. I want to make sure that on this program, all of the information, the concepts and the materials that we will share with you today are for general informational and educational purposes only. So the information expressed you should not consider, or it does not consider your specific situation or your objectives. And it's not intended as a recommendation appropriate for you individually. So viewers and listeners, you are encouraged to seek advice from a certified credit counselor or a qualified tax professional, legal professional, financial advisor to really determine whether any information presented to you today is suitable for your specific situation. So that's my disclaimer.
I am so happy you brought up that disclaimer because this is informational purposes only. We're really trying to educate the community. One thing I wanted to point out as it relates to that is that many folks will pay anywhere from $50 to $100 a month. It could be it could be even higher amounts than that. They may pay some type of credit repair agency. And what I want every consumer who's listening to this session to know is that they are doing things that you can do yourself at no cost. It's super easy. If they were to take the time to educate you on what to do, you could literally do these things that you're paying them to do yourself. Another thing that I want consumers to be aware of is that there are nonprofit organizations out there to help them, to coach them, to advise them on what they need to do to either build credit or repair credit or improve credit, and they won't charge you a dime for it. So I am suggesting to the consumers that are listening to seek out these nonprofit organizations. National organizations like the United Way are a good organization to seek out. If you're in the Atlanta area, there's Greater Atlanta Builds Credit. If you're in Boston, there's Boston Builds Credit. If you're in St. Louis, there's St. Louis Builds Credit. And then there is also Consumer Credit Counseling of America, I believe is the name. But certainly seek out those nonprofit organizations who will assist you for free.
Yeah, and there's links below again to those resources. And most nonprofit agencies are members of either the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, or they're members of the Financial Counseling Association of America. And both of these groups have certification requirements to ensure a standard level of education and quality amongst the counselors. They also require accreditation in which an outside body really checks the standards of practice so it's being met. And so definitely the links are below. Look, national organizations and local organizations are out there available for you to really get free counseling. So thank you for sharing that information. So also, why is it important? Why is credit important anyway?
So having a good credit history can benefit you in many ways, actually. And so credit is a part of our everyday lives. People do not realize how much so. And so just again, buying a car, renting an apartment, getting a cell phone or getting utility services, getting a new job, starting a business, or even getting insurance. Having a good credit history can help you do all of those things. Number one, getting a car. So you may not get access to a car if you don't have good credit. Or if you have poor or fair credit, you will pay more for that car than you need to if you don't have good credit. Renting an apartment. So what does a landlord want to know? A landlord wants to know if you will pay them every month, right? They want to know. They want to look at your credit history, and your history will tell them whether you pay your bills as agreed. And so having a good credit history could possibly remove a deposit. Some landlords, if you don't have credit history, they will ask you to pay anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 months in deposit if you don't have a credit history, because without a credit history, they can't determine whether you're going to pay them on time every month. So that deposit is insurance for them, sort of an insurance for them in case you don't pay. And so I mentioned mobile phones or cell phones. Having good credit will either remove the need for a deposit when you're buying a cell phone, or also with utilities, which you may remember I mentioned that those are called service. That's a service credit.
Yeah,
that's the type of credit that is. But also getting a job. So getting a job, a lot of folks do not realize when they're applying for a job that they are authorizing that employer to pull credit. So some employers will pull your credit depending on the type of job it is. So if it is a job where you're going to be handling money or where your character is of utmost importance, they'll pull your credit to determine, are you credit worthy? Do you pay as agreed? Because that goes to your character. And then starting a business. When you start your own business, so say you're going to start a barbershop or a hair salon, well, you have to establish business credit. So they'll look at your personal credit as you're establishing your business credit to determine if you're credit worthy. And then lastly, insurance. Insurance premiums are oftentimes based upon your credit rating. So if you have poor or fair credit rating, you're going to have a higher premium than someone who has good or excellent credit. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so it's a lot of things that you don't think about. Heck, having good credit can sometimes get you a good date and maybe a good spouse, right?
Well, I am one that may ask that question.
Just saying, just saying. That's all I gotta say, right? Okay, so that being said, the importance of credit, we're going to talk about how do you repair credit if you've taken some missteps. But before we even get there, what about just establishing credit from the giddy up? If you're a young student out of college, how would you recommend someone establishes credit if they don't currently have credit?
Yeah, that's a very good question and a very good point. And so if you're 18 years of age or older, it's a good idea to establish credit. So there are a couple of ways you could do, or several ways you could do that. So one is to get a cell phone in your name. That's an easy way to establish credit if you don't already have it, right? So get a cell phone in your name, get utilities. So say you're a college student and you're getting your first apartment. You're going to get utilities, possibly utilities in your name. Also your rent. You can ask your landlord to report how you're paying your rent to the credit bureaus. Also, many banks and credit unions have credit builder loans. It's kind of like a secured loans. They use the amount of money that you have in a checking or savings to secure that loan, but also secure credit cards. Same thing.
Yeah.
You can use, let's just say, $500 that you might have in a bank to get a credit card, and that would be your limit. That $500. So as you use that credit card to buy things, you pay it off, and then that's how you establish credit. So those are some real quick and easy ways that you can establish credit.
Yeah, and did we talk about being an authorized user on another account?
Yeah, another way to establish credit is, again, oftentimes people will work with their parents to request their parents to put them on their credit card, right? Yeah. So if they just put them on their credit card, then you're able to, or if you ask your mom or dad to put you on their credit card, you're able to establish credit that way as well. But the key to that is making sure that if someone is putting you as an authorized user of a credit card, that they're paying their bills on time as well.
I was going to say that. Make sure they got some good credit too. And then the other thing, it's also relatively easier to get a department store card or a gas card.
Yes.
Yeah. But
absolutely.
You got to be careful because can you address this being associated with one of the reporting bureaus? As a financial advisor, we always tell people to pay off the balance at the end of the month and never carry a balance and incur interest. But then I've heard some people say that to build credit, you need to maybe charge $100, and instead of paying $100 off at the end of the month, you pay $20 a month for 5 months, and that establishes credit. So what would you recommend, or what do you say is the best way to establish credit in that regard?
Well, I will say that both will work. Yes, both will work. However, when you're looking at credit scoring and your credit rating, oftentimes they're looking at, how much credit are you using, right? So let's just take this as an example. You have a credit limit of $100. So you don't want your balance to be more than 30% of your credit limit. So in that case, you don't want to have more than $30. A balance higher than $30, right? So yes, I think it's a best practice to pay off that credit card every month, or whatever that in that case, like a revolving loan, pay that balance off every month. You know why? Because you're also going to be paying less for that loan over time. So as you carry over that balance, you're going to be paying interest, right? So your interest is based upon the total amount that you've loaned, right? So you have to think about it that way. You'll be paying less in interest if you pay it off every month.
Yeah, and the less is zero. So that's always better than any interest.
Exactly.
Now you work
So
for
you're
one of the,
paying less for that loan,
yes.
and that's really the key. So then that's extra money in your pocket to do other things.
And it's also paying less for anything because whatever you charge to purchase is going to cost you more than what the sticker price is because you're paying for the use of that money to buy it if you don't pay
That's
it
right.
off within the cycle, billing cycle. But you work for one of the larger reporting agencies of credit information, Equifax, but there's also Experian and TransUnion. So tell us
Mhm.
about those organizations and what do they do?
Oh, okay. You have just outlined the three national credit bureaus, credit reporting agencies. And so Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion collect information from creditors. So those companies that you borrow money from, credit card companies, mortgage companies, auto loan companies, um, and the like. Even if you file bankruptcy, they collect that kind of information. And then they develop a credit score, a credit report, and then a score on how you pay back those creditors. It also includes inquiries. It includes, I mentioned public information such as bankruptcies, um, collections. That means if you're in collection, that means that you have not paid off your debt. That debt goes into collection. You're going to pay even a higher interest rate, and that's not a favorable thing on your credit report.
Right. So what I'm going to do is there's going to be images shown now of different parts of a credit report. And there's really 5 sections. I want to run through the 5 sections real quick and then allow you to add a little bit to each one of the sections we go over. So the 5 sections are consumer information, which is personal information, public record information, and as Ralonda was talking about collection information, then there's what's called a section trade. And so that is your payment history on the different types of loans and types of debts that you have. And then there's inquiries. So if you can step us through that, the first section is customer information. What kind of information is gathered there? And tell us about the importance of making sure that that information is accurate.
First off, every consumer over the age of 18 should check with each credit bureau, pull their report with each credit bureau. One thing to note, from now through the end of 2022, December 31st of 2022, you could go in each week and pull your credit report from each bureau for free. Again, you could go in each week and pull your credit report from Equifax, pull it from Experian, and pull it from TransUnion for free through the end of December 31st, through the end of this year, which is December.
Before you go on, you go to annualcreditreport.com, right?
Yes. So you go to annualcreditreport.com to pull. Thank you for asking that, because a lot of folks do not know where to go to pull those credit reports. But you go to annualcreditreport.com and you pull those reports and you want to look at that report. So the first section of the report is that consumer information. It has your personal identifiable information. It has your name, any aliases, that's any nicknames, your maiden name. If you're married, it'll have any name that you've gone by or that you've used on a loan, right? So you want to make sure that all names associated with your credit report of all 3 agencies, because it can be different, is accurate. You want to look at your social security number. You certainly, there could be another social security number on your credit report, and that could indicate some fraudulent activity. So you want to dispute that. If you see incorrect information, you want to look at previous addresses. You want to remove anything that does not belong to you.
Okay. And then also there's a section there where you can put in comments. So sometimes if you've had some derogatory things on your report, you want to explain something, there's a section there, but that's consumer information. And then there's a section called public records. What kind of stuff goes in public records?
So I think I mentioned in a previous question that you could have bankruptcies. So that could be a section where you'll see bankruptcy information. And if you've never had a bankruptcy, you want to dispute that as well. If you had a bankruptcy and the amount is incorrect, you want to dispute that. If the year is incorrect, you want to dispute that. So you definitely want to make sure that the information related to any public records is accurate.
Or any judgments, right? So
judgments, yeah, that's right.
Tax settlements and things
Tax
of that nature.
settlements, absolutely. Yeah.
And then there's a section called collections. So collections is where your account has gone to a collection agency.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, collections will occur when you have borrowed money from a lender. So that could be a credit card company, that could be an auto mortgage, what have you, type of lender, and you did not pay as agreed. And after several attempts, that lender will send your account to a collection agency. That collection agency will definitely put that this account is now in collections. That will be added to your credit report. It does negatively impact your credit score. So you want to make sure that all collection activity is accurate as well. Because if it doesn't belong to you, that you certainly want to remove judgments and all negative information like collections if it doesn't belong to you.
Yeah. And then the fourth section is called trades. And this is where you have different types of loans, like revolving loan, credit card loans, car notes, student loans. And there will be the information that tracks the loan information, who you owe money to, as well as your payment history and your consistency in paying it off on time, or if you're late. Is that correct?
That's right. So that's where all of your, that's where your lenders will report your activity. They'll report 30, 60, 90, 120 day lates. Here's a key that I would like to tell consumers on this. So if your bill is due, let's say on the 10th of each month, and you look up on the 12th and you haven't paid, still pay it. Don't wait till the 10th of next month to pay what's, the last two bills. Pay it as soon as you realize that you're a few days late, because the lender will not report that late payment until you are 30 days late.
Good point.
So most consumers don't realize that they could be hurting themselves when they I'll just pay it next month.
Right. Double up next month, right? Yeah,
I'll double up, right? So it's really in your best interest to pay it as soon as possible, and really don't wait. Don't let it get to 30 days, because then it will show up and negatively impact your credit score.
And we'll talk more about this later, but what's neat, if you look at the reports from the different agencies, sometimes in this section, it will tell you if it's derogatory, how long it will last, or when it will be removed from your report as
well. Absolutely. So that is another place to double check that the information is accurate, because if there is negative information there on how you paid, it will certainly impact your credit score.
And then the last section is inquiries. And that's where you have either hard inquiries or soft inquiries. So tell us a little bit about that section.
Oh, this is a good one. So most people don't realize, I just had a conversation with someone the other day about inquiries. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about inquiries. So what an inquiry is, say that you're looking for a car loan and you might be searching for the best interest rate on that car loan. So you may go to 2 or 3 or 4 dealerships, right? And
Hmm.
so the good news about those type of inquiries, they can be considered soft inquiries because if they're happening within, a short period of time, credit bureaus now can tell when consumers are searching for the best interest rate. So that in those instances, that's a good thing for consumers to look for the lowest rate, and you won't be dinged, if you will, negatively impacted by doing that. And so a soft inquiry, an example of a soft inquiry where it doesn't hurt you would be you pulling your own credit report. Someone recently said to me, "Oh, I'm not going to pull my credit report every week because I'm going to be dinged." No, if you're pulling your own credit report, it's considered a soft inquiry and it won't impact your credit score.
Okay.
But if you go to actually apply for a loan at 2 to 3 places within 2 weeks, that could hurt you.
Yeah.
I'm just giving a number. I'm just throwing a number out there, because all of it is based upon a calculation, right? So, a lot of inquiries. I'm just going to say a lot of inquiries in a short period of time, or just even let's just say over a 30-day time frame. If you've made an inquiry for a car loan, a new credit card, and let's just say a mortgage, all in that 30-day time frame, that could be, considered a negative thing, right? So it negatively impact your credit score. So that's a hard inquiry. And you also want to be sure that when you're even shopping for that lower interest rate for a mortgage or a car loan, that you're not authorizing them to pull your credit report. A lot of people don't realize that they're signing off for someone for a lender to pull their credit report.
Hmm.
So just be considerate of that. Just make sure that you're not authorizing, multiple lenders to pull your report. You pull your report for a car. So I would suggest in that instance, if you are looking for a car loan, only once you figured out, okay, I want to go with this company, or that's the company that you authorize. Don't authorize all 3 or 4 that you've looked at to pull your credit.
Okay.
I hope
So
that
here's
makes sense.
it does. And here's what I want to do. I'm going to talk about how to understand your credit report, where to go for that. And we talk about nonprofit agencies that can step
Mhm,
you through and really help you understand the details of your specific report.
mhm.
But before we get into that, I want you to talk about credit scores in general. Like, what is a
Okay.
credit score? Because
Yeah.
that's really a reflection of what's on your credit report and what
Yeah.
you would try to fix if you need to repair or correct or get rid of errors. So before we get into that process, tell us about what a credit score is.
Okay. Credit score. So you know what? I'm gonna answer the question with a question.
Okay.
So Clifton, has anyone asked to borrow money from you?
Yes, all the time.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you do, right? We all get people that
Look,
ask us to.
I'm sometimes like I have to. I'm not your emergency fund.
Yeah. So we have acted as lenders, right?
Yes.
Because people have asked us to borrow money. And have you always agreed to loan money to folks who've asked you?
I wouldn't say always. So sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. Right? I
Okay.
don't want to become that habitual, like I said, an emergency fund for someone.
Oh, is that why you say no? What
Well,
are there
of
other
course we
reasons
do.
why you've said no?
Well, there's you know what, you know where I'm going with this, right? Hey, I'll pay you back. I'll pay you back. You know, and then when you ask about it, then he's like, they got an issue. Like, why are you mad at me if I'm? Why I got to ask you?
So what you're saying is that you have loaned money to individuals who may not have paid you back, or they may have paid you back slowly or not as agreed, right?
Exactly.
So if they did not pay you back as agreed or did not pay you back at all, then they probably have a very poor or fair credit rating with you or credit score with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So literally a credit score helps a lender determine how you will pay your bills. Will you pay as agreed? Will you pay slow? That's what a credit rating is. So a credit rating goes from 300 to 850.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the range. 300 is poor, 850 is excellent. And so it goes poor, fair, good, excellent.
And it's all reflected on history too. So
It's all reflected on history. Yes.
Right. And so tell us about, so there's all these different scores out there, and it's proprietary as to what actually makes up a score, but we know generally the components of a score. Can you tell us what really makes up a credit score?
So great question. A lot of folks need to understand what makes up their credit score. And I would say the biggest impact to their credit score is their payment history, how they're paying. Are they paying as agreed? So if you agree to pay $50 every month by the 10th, you need to pay $50 every month by the 10th. And so, as an example, friends will sometimes say, man, I got to improve my credit score. And the first question I'll ask them is, are you paying as agreed? Sometimes they'll say no. I'm like, that's the best thing that you could do. The first thing I would suggest that you do to improve your credit score is to pay as agreed.
Gotcha.
Credit utilization is the second greatest impact to your credit score. And that really has to do with your balance. So using a simple number again, it's a $100 balance. You really want to keep your, $100 credit limit. You want to keep your balances 30% or lower. So you don't want to have a balance that's higher than 30% of your credit limit. So using that $100 example, you don't want to have a balance that's higher than $30. Just keeping it simple there. And that's really on revolving credit, right? We're talking revolving credit. And then length of credit history. So if you just, if you have a credit report that goes back only 4 months, that's typically not enough credit history to make a decision. But if you had a year or two, under your belt, that's a little bit more time. I got my first credit card as an undergrad student, freshman year. So I've had credit for a long time. So my credit history is not an issue there. But again, I'll say the fourth and the fifth, which are equally weighted at 10% each, is new credit and credit mix. They do impact your credit. So new credit really has to do with how much new credit have you, new credit cards, as an example, have you applied for recently? So if you've applied for, let's say, 5 credit cards in the last 30 days, that's not a good look.
Right.
That could impact your credit score. Credit mix is having a mix of credit. So revolving credit, installment loans, and service credit, that's good, because having different types of credit will show that you can pay different types of credit, right? So a revolving loan is, you're constantly borrowing and paying back. So your credit balance will go up and down. Installment loan is just a fixed amount that you typically pay every month. So that's different, right? And then service credit is a little different as well. So having that good credit mix, it just shows that you can handle different types of credit and paying it back as agreed.
Got you. Now, I would tell you, if your credit score is not is not a true reflection of your character, or it's not as high as you would like, the first two things you need to do, in my opinion, is just understand what is on your credit report, and then
Yes.
make sure that it's accurate and correct. So those are the first fundamental steps. And as we said before, there's links in the very bottom where you can access a certified credit counselor, and all of these organizations will have a certified credit counselor do a soft pull of your credit report, and they will step you through to make sure that you understand everything that's there. And you're not relying on programs like this or what you might read in a news article in general. You're looking at specifically your credit report, and you're talking to a certified credit counselor to understand what it is. So you can pull your credit report, as Ralonda said, once a week, and you can pull it yourself, but definitely call them. You can also go to ftc.gov and
Yes.
get some basic information about correcting anything on your credit report. But the first step is to get it and understand it, right? And then make sure it's correct and dispute anything that's not correct. There are examples of dispute letters, and talk a little bit about that, Ralonda. What are different ways that people can actually correct or report things that are not correct on the report and get it removed or fixed?
So it is relatively simple to dispute your credit report. So each credit bureau, by the way, I need to say that you could have a different credit score. Your credit score may not be the same at each credit bureau, and that's because lenders do not all lenders don't report to all credit bureaus, right? So Macy's may only report to Equifax, and Dillard's may only report to Experian. I don't know if that to be true, but I'm giving an example. So you might have 10 lenders who are reporting to Equifax, and 20 reporting to TransUnion, and 15 reporting to Experian. And so because of that, you might have a different credit score at all three credit bureaus. A lot of people get that confused. So having said that, it's, if you want to dispute anything on that credit report, you can call the credit bureau. So if it's Equifax, you can call Equifax. You can go on Equifax.com, the site, and then you can go online, is what I'm saying, to put in your dispute that way. It's always good to have a copy of your credit report when you're making that dispute. And then you need to make sure that you have all of your identifying information so that you can confirm who you are. You'll have to confirm your identity when they're talking to you. But it's relatively easy, and each credit bureau will do their investigation. They'll reach out to you if they have additional questions, and then they'll let you know the result of that investigation.
And so, like you said, there are organizations out there that will charge you to do this work for you. However, you
Yes.
can do it yourself. And it's just like doing your taxes. You can do your taxes yourself, or you can
Mm-hmm.
pay somebody to do your taxes. But even if you pay somebody to do your taxes, you're still signing your tax return.
That's
So,
right.
so you still got to understand it. I think that you should definitely call a certified credit counselor, a local one or
Yes.
a national one. The numbers and the organizations are on the screen there for you now. It's also in the description, the very bottom. Contact them, pull your credit report, see what's on it, identify what's not correct, and actually talk them through the different ways of correcting that. You can do it by calling a reporting agency. You can do that by going online and fixing it. And you can also do it by mail. And the information by mail, is there a sample letter? It has to include enough information to identify what is not correct. And if you can provide supporting information, send it certified, not certified, but somewhere where you can track it to make sure it's delivered, you know when it was received, and just step through it that way. Would you add anything to that, Ralonda, about?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is I just want to underscore that there are nonprofit organizations there to help. The consumer is not alone. The consumer is not alone. Please reach out. There are organizations, as we've said many times, that are there to help you. They can help you with making sure that you're prepared to put in the dispute, that they review it and agree that there is a dispute there, because there might be things that you're not understanding. And so those nonprofits are there to help you with all of this.
So we can talk forever, but there's three things I want to go over. I want to summarize the steps or strategy to really repair and improve credit. So it's a step that I've talked to my clients about. And then I want to talk about identity theft as well. So first off, before we leave this topic, the steps to repair and include, I would say this, and then I want you to add to it. So definitely get your credit report, and so you know what it is and review it. Step number one. If you have anything that is not correct, dispute those and correct any errors. That's step number two. And then what you said before, pay your bills on time, pay as agreed. It's going to take some time if you have some late payments, but the more you pay on time, the more you build up good experiences. So pay on time, use as little credit as possible. So that goes back to budgeting and not overspending. Use the credit building strategies that we talked about already to build credit. Keep old accounts, because the longer you have accounts, the better. So don't close accounts, especially if they're good accounts. Apply for credit only if needed. And do some negotiations. If you have some credit cards that are high interest rate, negotiate. Try to get those interest rates lower.
And if I can add to this, because you're just right on point. Just because you have a high credit limit or a credit limit doesn't mean that you have to spend it to the limit.
Word.
And I said, it's so good. It's really impactful when you can keep your balance at 30% of the limit. Many people, they say, oh, I have $1,000 limit. I'm going to go and spend all of that, right? And then when they look up, they can't afford the monthly payments. So you got to think about that as well. So it's always good to keep it at 30% or to pay it off every month. As you stated, Clifton, it's just a good practice.
And these organizations too, if it is really out of control, and we've all been there before, if your minimum payments are greater than your cash flow, then talking to these agencies, they have different plans that will help you, attack that issue. And everybody's issue is different. We're not going to go into a lot of the details, but the resources are, again, in the description section. But it starts with you contacting the certified credit counselor and getting advice specifically tailored for you. So is there anything else you would add to that before we talk about identity theft and fraud?
The last thing I would say is everybody take a deep breath. Everybody has a different credit journey. A lot of people have angst, guilt, and shame around credit, and it's okay. We all have to start somewhere. And the fact that you're listening to this session means that you want to learn and you want to get ahead of it and you want to address it and you want to be the best credit consumer as you possibly can. So applaud yourself for that.
That is so true, because, this snapshot in time, if you have made some bad steps, it doesn't define your future.
That's right.
What really defines your future is your plan, your vision, and what are you doing today to take steps to correct it. So watching this program and putting these ideas into action is step number one.
Yes, we can all do it.
Yes. And there's a lot of resources out there. And so there's some websites out there if you experience identity theft and fraud. But tell us about the resources that you have, Ralonda, with Equifax and the other reporting agencies to help people who are experiencing those two things.
So identity theft, as we all know, is a real thing. So I want to educate people on the difference between identity theft and identity fraud. So identity theft is when someone has stolen your identity, like your social security number, your name, social security number, and your date of birth together. Can be very powerful for these fraudsters. But that just having that information is just identity theft. Identity fraud is when someone uses that information to gain access to your bank accounts, to request credit in your name, things of that nature. So many folks I'm learning in working with the public have been victims of identity fraud. And so identity fraud is on the rise. And so there are several ways that you can really protect yourself against identity fraud. Most consumers are not thinking through, or they don't know ways that they can prevent identity fraud. Number one, I would say, is you can freeze your credit report. By freezing your credit report, fraudsters cannot gain access to it to open up accounts, credit accounts, right? Because guess what? In order to open up most of the time, in order to open up an account, as I mentioned before, to gain access to credit, they're going to pull your credit report at one of the three or all three of the credit bureaus. If your credit report is frozen, they cannot look at it to grant you credit. So I always tell people to freeze their credit report when they know that they're about to go in to apply for, let's say, an auto loan or apply for a credit card. Unfreeze it. Apply for whatever you need to apply for, get your response, and freeze it again.
Got it. Okay.
So I hope that's clear. Freezing credit reports, look it up. It's pretty easy. If you have an identity theft protection solution, which I recommend to everybody, you could get it for a low cost, monthly cost. And many employers offer identity theft solutions as well. Equifax offers a consumer identity theft protection solution, and you'll see that at the bottom as well. I have to say that. So with an identity theft solution, it's easier. You can actually manage all of that typically with your cell phone, because most identity theft solutions have an app. You can unfreeze and freeze your credit reports pretty easy. You can always have a pulse on what your credit score is, typically, depending upon the solution that you purchase. So I have to say that. Identity theft solution. Another way that you can avoid against identity fraud is don't give people your personal identifiable information over the phone. Like any Joe Blow that calls you and they're like, yeah, well, I want to help you get a better deal on so-and-so, so-and-so. I overheard a family member talking to someone over the phone, and they're just giving out their social security number. I'm like, who are you talking to? Oh, well, this person said that they can get me a better deal on my home insurance. Well, do you know this person? Do you know the company they work for? Do you know that they actually work for this company? You just picked up the phone and gave whomever your information. So you need to make sure that you know who you're talking to. You need to make sure, do you need to give that information? Sometimes when you make a doctor's appointment, they'll ask for that information now, a social security. Well, they've always done that a lot of times. you don't have to give a social security number to set up a doctor's appointment. So you should ask, why do you need this information? Right? So just ask a lot of questions before you give out social security numbers, date of birth, your name all together. Just be careful with that. Also, when you get, a lot of folks give out gift cards. So if you get a gift card through an email, like if one is emailed to you, you don't know who the sender is, you never heard of the company, and then you click on the link and they ask for all this information like social security number, you shouldn't have to give your social security number to use a gift card. You shouldn't have to give your social security number to register a gift card. So just, these should be red flags to you. So always think about that. Before you give that information, just stop and think, do they need it? Or ask the question, why do you need this? So I hope those things are helpful.
Yeah, so like I said before, we can talk probably for an hour longer on different things. We covered some high level issues. This is a boot camp to increase your credit fitness, but more importantly, there are resources in the description for you to click on, download. And if you're going to take anything away from this, I would definitely say you should be calling the 1-800 number for the National Foundation for Credit Counseling to schedule your one-on-one consultation with the certified credit counselor. But I would ask you this, Ralonda, if you were to share your final comment with us, what would your final comment be to our Empower Savings community around becoming credit fit?
Very good. There's a lot of information out there on the FDIC website, CFPB website. I mentioned the United Way. You mentioned the National Credit Foundation of America, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. There's a lot of information out there for consumers. I would recommend going out there to read the information, particularly on FDIC's and FDIC and CFPB's website. They have a lot of good information. And so that would be number one, go out there and read. Number two, reach out to the nonprofit organizations that can help you with your credit. Number three, do not be ashamed. Everyone has a credit journey. I don't know where you are in your journey, but the fact that you are listening and trying to learn is a really good first step. And I wish you well in your credit journey.
That being said, when you see anyone who's experiencing some level of financial success, that's all you really see is their success. You don't see their journey.
That's right.
There's always been ups and downs. And the reason why they can share what they know is because they've learned through their failures. To your point, never be embarrassed.
That's it.
Never be embarrassed because you're not alone.
That's right. And you can do it. We can all improve what we're doing around getting credit, paying for credit, and getting the lowest amount of interest rate for our credit, right? Yeah. We can all improve on that because our health, because our wealth is also our health, right? We often say our health is our wealth, right? Yes. But really, financial wealth is really important. Financial health is very important. And we can all get there. There's a lot that we can do. There's little steps that we could do to get there. So,
and your financial health can reduce your stress.
Absolutely. Financial health can reduce your stress. And again, I got to tell this quick story. I met a woman at a department store. We got on the fact that I work for Equifax, and she was like, "Oh, I actually pay this organization $100 a month to work on my credit." And I'm like, work on your credit, And I said, so what do you think you're getting in value for that $100 a month? Fairly intelligent woman, I could just tell she was, but she was an example of someone who got duped. I call it dupe because she could not articulate what value she was getting every month for that $100 she was paying, right? I said, hey, did your credit score increase? She couldn't tell me that. She could not tell me what value she was getting for that 100. I think for her, it was peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
So I said, did you know that there are nonprofits out here that will do exactly what they're doing for free? I said, you're paying $1,200 a month for this service where you can get support and coaching to do it yourself for free. Well, they'll help you, get you on your journey. It's just simple things that you can do. And she just was overwhelmed with happiness. She was like, oh my God, you were sent to me to help me. You just saved me $1,200 a month. I mean, $1,200 a year,
Really,
so it was just,
Well, I tell
it's
you this, the intent of our program is to give people hope that whatever you envision, you can achieve.
Yeah.
Our intention was also to inspire you with the information we shared with you here to take action on your ideas. We also wanted to educate you and share some new knowledge with you as well, but more importantly, connect you to resources where you can take the next step to achieve your goal. And that's where there's links below. Don't keep this a secret. Watch this over again. Share it with somebody who needs to know. Some of this stuff was very basic, but there's people out there who needs basic stuff. If you want more advanced information, call a certified credit counselor. I want to not only thank you, Ralonda, I want to thank Comerica Bank for their long-term support. Thank AE Media Group for making us look good on social media. I want to thank you, our viewers in the United States and around the world, for being a part of this, for sharing your most precious resource, which is your time, which is your life. And I would say, get the biggest dividend that you can get on any investment by taking these ideas and put them into action. So until we see each other again, I would like you to stay empowered and inspired to thrive. Thank you for watching our Empower Series YouTube video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit the subscribe button below, as well as the little button to be notified the next time we upload our video. Until then, stay connected with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your social media flavor is. Inspire the world to thrive. See you soon.